Hello, this is Mr. Jared, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be 3D modeling this object in SolidWorks. So the first thing I'm going to take note of is my location of my origin. And here I can see that the origin is located right here on the front of this angled piece. Okay, so as far as the 3D view that you can see here, it would be in the front of this circle, and it would be dead center. Okay, I can see that because there are center lines here. Now, I also see there's a little note up here that says it is on the right side view. So making sure that we are drawing on the right side view, and this is going to be located right there. And the second thing I'll take note of is my units. And here I can see I am in IPS. That is why I have a whole bunch of decimal places. So you'll see there's a whole bunch of views. This one looks awfully confusing, but really you're just going to take this in bits and pieces, and you're going to pull out little things. There's a lot of repeated measurements in here that you don't necessarily need. It's just to kind of reassure you of those measurements. But you do see that I wrote in my notes that it is a counterbore hole right here in the middle. And you can also see that the drawing demonstrates two broken out views. That's what this is, and this one down here. A broken out view is the one that has kind of like a pulled away view, and it's got this little freehand squiggly line. So that indicates these two are broke out views. And it says it has an auxiliary view, meaning an extra view that shows some type of detail. So this 3D view over here is not necessarily an isometric, but instead it is an auxiliary view in kind of a 3D isometric angle. So an auxiliary view is an extra view that shows some sort of detail. So this little tiny measurement is to help show that detail, okay? So it says the origin is located in the center of the hole. That is the other note that I was explaining earlier. So I'm going to pull this to my other screen if you haven't done so already. You can create a new part in SolidWorks, and we're going to make sure our units are in IPS. My computer defaults to that, so I'm good to go. I am going to be sketching on the right view, okay, or the right plane. And first, I'm going to sketch what I see here, which is a big angled piece. So I'm just going to use my line tool, and I'm going to start somewhere up here, and I'll kind of just draw what I see, and then I'll worry about dimensioning it later. So it kind of just wiggles down like that and back up. Now, if you haven't done so already, like my computer did, I tried to make sure I drew on horizontal and vertical lines for these three. Same thing with these three. And mine defaulted to making these parallel. So I made sure when I drew this line up, it was parallel. If yours are not parallel, obviously select both of them holding in Shift and set them to parallel. Okay. Now from here, we can go ahead and dimension a lot of this. So if I start at the top of this middle picture and kind of work myself down, not necessarily going to worry about all this junk yet in the middle. We're just kind of trying to get this main thing in shape here. So it says the thickness here is 0.5. You can see from this wall to the origin is 0.5, so that's how far over it is. And then how far over this stuff is 0.2, so it'll push this wall out. That is also 0.5, and following this up, you see it's 0.5 here in the middle, okay? So you're just going to kind of look towards the outside of all these measurements. So this first thing here is 0.5. From this wall to my origin is also 0.5. And I know from doing this several times, every once in a while it moves your sketch all around, especially if you didn't draw this past the origin. If that's the case, you might need to delete this 0.5 right here, the second one that I put in. Just grab a dot and move it back and forth and then put it back in. Okay. Now, my other measurements that I see, it says from my origin all the way to the outside vertical line. Make sure you do the outside, not the inside. Outside vertical line, it has there a measurement of 2. Okay, so far we did those 3 measurements right across the top, 0.5, 0.5, and 2. All right. Now down here, the thickness of this piece is also 0.5. Okay, the distance in between these two angles is 0.5. And then as far as the distance down goes and the distance up, we need to kind of look back at our picture again. Pull this picture back over here. Let's look up. We can actually see from the origin going upwards, you see that there is a vertical measurement of 3, and that 3 actually connects these two pictures, which is really nice. it's saying that it is up to the center of these cutouts is 3, but then how far up is it? Well, this corner, right now we're looking at the side view, which is the corner, has a radius of 1 because it's going to be filleted later. So that means from the origin up to here and then up to here is 1 plus 3. So obviously 4. Okay, so from the origin all the way to the top is 4. Going down, let's see if we have a similar situation. We do. So from the origin down to the center point is 2.5. And then again, it's got a radius of 1. So going down is 3.5. So it's these two measurements added. Going up, it's 4. Like I said, this picture can be confusing to read, but it's pretty simple once you look past all the junk. So going up is 4 from the origin to the top line, and from the bottom line up to the origin is going to be 3.5. Okay, so now your 3 simple lines up here and your 3 simple lines down here are all fully defined. It's just our angled lines. So if I hit escape, let's see how this can still move. Can't move left or right, it can move up or down, but really what I see here that's happening is my angle is actually moving, the degree that this is moving. So let's look close in the middle and see if there is a measurement there for the degree. And I can see right here it's 45. So it says this line is 45, but it doesn't say this line. So is there something that tells us that this is also a 45-degree line? Well, yeah, it says this is 0.5 of a measurement. So if that is all 0.5 going throughout this whole thing, that means this line and this line all have to be parallel. So I can make this first angled line 45 degrees. So in order to do that, some of you might draw in a construction line, that's fine. But what you can do is just select any horizontal line or anything that's going that same direction. So if I just use this bottom line way down here, make sure you click on the line, not that dot like I accidentally did. And this angled line here, you see I'm getting the same results as drawing in a construction line. So it just saves you one less step. So if I set that to 45, that's good so far. Now why is it still blue? Well, let's see. Let's click on a dot, and I can still move it up and down. I can't change the degrees, but I can still move it up or down. So that means the distance from the origin is not set. So let's look back again, see if there's something else. Well, if I look close at my origin, is there anything that says the distance from the origin to this line? Well, yes, there is. It's that same 0.5 I was just showing you before. So from that line we're dealing with to a line later on we're going to draw that cuts through the origin is 0.5. So from my origin to the line we're dealing with is also 0.5. Okay, so in SolidWorks, let's make sure that we get our dimension tool, click your origin, click this angled line, and we're going to set that distance to 0.5. So that is awfully confusing. I know it would take you a lot longer than what the video here shows to do that. So everything now is fully defined. We can go to our Features tab and Extrude. And since this is in the middle of, since the origin is in the middle of the whole entire shape, we are going to be doing a mid-plane extrusion, change from blind to mid-plane, and that total width that we're going to be extruding it is actually seen in this picture here. So you can see from one side all the way to the other is 3.5, 3.5. Okay, so I have it set to 3.5. So next, let's do the middle section because that is the most difficult. So since the origin is located floating out here, we're going to work off of the origin. So I'm going to sketch, and I'll rotate around, and I'll click on this flat face. Since that's on an angle, it's hard to see, but if I do Control 8, it gives me a nice flat view of it. So I'm going to draw a circle right off my origin first. I'm not going to worry about all the inside piece because we're going to use the whole wizard for that. And here, I need to get my Smart Dimension tool and click on this circle, and we got to figure out what size this actually is. This measurement actually stands out real nice and easy for us. So a lot of people would say it's this 2.25, but if I follow where that points to, that is the inside, that is actually the hole that's going to be cut through. So you are actually using this measurement. And I say it stands out nicely because it's not in all of this junk. So it's actually going to be 3, okay? And then when we extrude, since we're only on this face right here, keep in mind there's some that comes forward and some that goes out the back. Well, what comes forward we already know is 0.5. Okay, what goes out the back, it says that it has a measurement right here, which is tough to see, is 0.75. Now, you can't just say 0.5 and 0.75 because we also have the thickness of this material. So coming forward is 0.5, going out the back is 0.5 plus 0.75. If you think in terms of change, 50 cents plus 75 cents, we have $1.25. So let's set this measurement first. This one is 3. Sorry, I kind of went off on a little extra tangent there. But this one is 3. Go to the Features tab and hit Extrude. And coming forward, we want 0.5. I'm going to select the box for direction 2. And that one, like I said, is 0.75 plus 0.5, which is better known as 1.25. And you can see it's coming out the back. Okay, so green check. All right, so now we have that whole middle part almost done. All right, it's almost done. So from here, we are going to put that counterbore in. So get the hole wizard. Make sure you're on the counterbore hole type. Set your standard to being the correct units. In this case, we are in ANSI inch. ANSI inch. Okay, the binding head screw is fine. As far as the size goes, this is where we're going to have to look back at that picture again. So pull that back over. Okay, and inside of this, since we're looking at the side view, we need to see the dotted lines. These dotted lines are hidden because we're looking at it from the side. But what they're indicating is this hole right here. So if I follow these dotted lines, I can see the outside of the diameter is 2.25. Okay, this inside piece that gets cut through is 1. And the depth down, it's this distance right here. That depth down is specified right there, which is 1.25. So very hard to actually see. Okay, it's very hard to actually see. I'll help you back with those measurements. I actually like to not even set my size here. I like to use the custom sizing. So if your box is not checked, please do so. Check that box. Our inside piece, inside hole, like I said, is 1. The overall diameter, the outside, is 2.25. And the depth down is 1.25. So make sure you look at those measurements, put them in correctly. Scrolling down, we want the end condition to be through all. We want none of these boxes checked for the options. And then for the position, it's going to ask us for a 3D sketch. We don't have a dot yet, so even if you try to click on this origin, it won't put it in. So you have to just put it off to the side for right now. Hit the green check, and now we're going to have to edit where that position is. And you can see I really messed mine up. So if we come over to this counterbore and we hit the drop down, again, you can see that we have a negative sign next to this 3D sketch, meaning it's underdefined. So you can right click, right click and hit edit sketch. And it's just going to have this blue asterisk or point. We're just going to drag that right to the origin. Now it's locked on there. It's now fully defined. And we'll hit return from sketch. And now it's centralized. Okay, it's right in the middle. All right, from here, let's add these little connecting pieces. So sketch on the front of this donut, on the front, and we'll hit Control 8 so we're on a nice flat view. Now they are the same thing on both sides, so I'm going to be mirroring everything across. So I'm just going to work on one side for right now. Okay, now these little connecting pieces or these small extra pieces are a little bit confusing to draw because we're working on making sure it's actually inside of the circle. So you can kind of see it does go out straight. There's a little thickness of a piece, a little thickness of a piece, and there's a cutout in here. So we're going to be doing this in 2 steps. Okay, the first step is kind of just drawing the overall rectangle and then trimming, so we have this removed to extrude back to here. Okay, but we do have a solid thickness there that we're going to have to cut off afterwards. Okay, so first, let's figure out what the overall height is and how far up and down it is. So the overall height, if we're looking in here, we can kind of see this is that small thickness of a piece, small thickness of a piece. We can see that both of these are 0.25, okay, 0.25, and it says in between is 0.75. So that means from the top of the rectangle part that we're going to draw to the bottom of the rectangle is 0.25 plus 0.75 plus 0.25. Okay, pull this over to the side. Now here's a little trick that I like to use. You can use the line tool, but I'm a big fan of using this center rectangle. And the reason why I do that is because it gives me a center point that I can actually make coincident with the origin. So if I just click in here, make sure you're not actually attached to one of these lines. If I just click in here and draw up, there's my rectangle. Okay, I can hit escape to get off of the rectangle tool. I'll select that center point, hold in shift and select my origin. And here I can make it horizontal. Sorry, not coincident, it would actually connect it. Horizontal. Okay, and then I'll just take this corner and drag it right to the outside. And the nice thing with this is the remainder of this rectangle is inside this circle. You do not want it hanging out here, okay, because then this would actually get extruded as well. But if we hide it inside that wall, we're going to be fine. Now, to make this defined, okay, I just drag this over till it connects to my circle. Right? And if it's not connected up there, you can also drag that down. It should be good. Now, it might look like it's going to go out past that circle, but that's just because the computer can't render a perfect circle. Okay, so it is connected right there to that edge. Now let's dimension this. The overall height here, like I said, is 0.75 plus 0.25 plus 0.25. Okay, so 1.25. Now we do have a cutout, so we'll have to either use the line tool or another rectangle, but it just draws in like this. Okay. And we can trim. So I'll trim that little line off, trim this little line off. Okay, oops, actually I trimmed the wrong things there. What you want to trim is just this inside, I apologize, so that we have a solid shape that comes down around. Then you can dimension these, they're both 0.25. If you want to, you can set them both to equal, or you can just dimension them. I think it's just as fast. Okay, and going in is where that auxiliary view helps us. So you see the auxiliary view shows going in is 0.12. Okay, 0.12. So that will be this line right here. We're going to set that to 0.12. So you should be fully defined right now. Don't forget here that we actually need to do this on the other side as well. So the nice thing that we're going to do is just mirror this. So I'll get my line tool and set it to a construction line. Make sure you click right on your origin and just draw straight up to this circle. Okay, so it connects. I'm going to come out here and highlight everything, and I'll hit mirror entities. And the mirror about line is going to be this construction line. Sometimes when you select a construction line, it automatically does that for you. Mine did not. So there's my shape. Now I'll go to the Features tab and hit Extrude. And if I rotate around, you see I'm coming out. I actually want to go back to this surface. So if you remember back, this thickness right here is 0.5. So you just hit the reverse, and let's make this 0.5. We'll hit the green check. Okay. Now to cut these little tabs off, I'm going to sketch on this flat surface here. I'll hit Control-8 so it goes to a flat view. And you could redraw those with a rectangle, or I like to use the Convert Entities. Convert Entities, if you just click in these little boxes here and hit the green check, it traces them for you. And we can go to the Features tab and Extrude Cut, and we'll set this to Through All, and green check. And it will cut right through that. So now the whole center is done. Now we just need to do the top and bottom. Now to do the top and bottom, we can actually see these broken out views. I can see that we do have curved corners, so those are fillets. And then I also see I have a slot hole in the middle. And it's the same thing down here, that's why it's not necessarily dimensioned. So in order to get the location of this slot easily, what I can do is just do the fillets first, and that will give me center points. So the fillets are a radius of 1. So let's use the fillet tool on the Features tab. We'll set our measurement to 1. And we need to do each one of these corners. So zoom in and select the little small corner edges. All 4 of them. Hit the green check, and now we have our curved pieces. So from here, I like to make a sketch right on that one. that flat surface, and I hit Control 8. And now I'm going to use the straight slot. And if you move your mouse over the outside curve first, see the center point pops up. So I'll click on that, and I'll move over and move my mouse over the other curve, and the other center point pops up. Okay, now I can set my dimensions. And if I look back, I see it has a distance of 1.5, which we don't need to put in. But we do need to put in this measurement, which is 0.75. And that's actually saying from one side all the way to the other. So right now, if I click on just the curve, I need half of that. So don't click on the curve. Let's actually click the top and bottom and set that to 0.75. So from here to here. We'll just set that to 0.75. So that's a different way of dimensioning this. Normally we do the curve. And that one's all good. Now, since this is at a 45-degree angle, I can actually draw this sketch too. And I will be drawing down here. And when we do a cut through all, it'll cut through both. Okay, so I will also repeat this step. I'll move my mouse down here so the center point pops up. Click, move my mouse on this curve so that center point pops up. And I'll draw out. And again, you could set these all to equal, but I think it's just as fast to dimension it to 0.75 up and down. Okay, now we'll go to the Features tab and hit Extrude Cut. And we'll set this to Through All. And if I rotate around, you can see it's going to cut through both of these. We'll hit the green check. Let's change our material here. Material is malleable cast iron, which is one of the defaults. And if we go to the Evaluate tab and hit Mass Properties, we should get 4.38 pounds. Our X should be 0. Our Y should be a positive 42 or 0.42. And the Z should be a negative 0.66. If you got that, you can save this and move on to the next one. If you didn't, please problem solve and figure out where you went wrong.